Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Avodah Zarah Samach Vav. We begin right on top on the first line. So in the Mishnah we learned about wine, forbidden wine, goyish wine, yain nesach, which spilled over onto the grapes. So the wine landed on the grapes, and now if the grapes are whole, unsplit, just complete whole grapes, then all you do is a rinse. You rinse the grapes off and you're good. But if the grapes are mivukais, they're split, they're sliced, they're cut, some of that wine got absorbed into the grapes, in which case, if there's enough wine to impart a flavor, so if one would, a guy would taste the wine within those grapes, that's called bin noisein ta'am. There's enough there to give a flavor, a positive flavor, which is typically defined as being 1 pot in 60 or more. But if it's less than 60th, then it's just negligible. It gets nullified, it gets dissolved into the bigger picture and is not reckoned with. It's no longer discernible. A taste is no longer felt. Right? That's what we mean when we say batal b'shishim, right? When it's less than a 60th, it's just nullified. But any more than that creates a problem, in which case the grapes become asur as well. Now, this Gemara today will be following a formula which dictates that if it's min b'she'ein minoi, if it's one type that falls into a different type, there's a collision, there's a clash, there's opposition, which makes it batal if in fact the problematic element is less, than the 60th. But if it's min b'minoi, if both articles are of the same nature, okay, there's no opposition. Let's say wine into wine, then even a drop, even a mashu, would adversely affect the recipient. And actually, Rashi brings that, this is the way our Gemara is working, but later on, in a week's time, the Gemara will actually conclude the psak halacha is that even if it's min b'minoi, it's about flavor, except for tevel and yain nesach. So here we speak about yain nesach. Certainly, the mashu system applies. So again, if it's min b'she'ein minoi, varying the elements, different types, so then we look at the 60th formula. If it's the same type of thing, one forbidden, one permitted, then even a drop of the forbidden material falling into the permissible material makes it asr. Okay, so let's see some cases about various, mix-ups and their, ramifications. Begins the Gemara on top, chamra atika. We have chamra, which is wine, atika, old, meaning proper wine, as opposed to fresh, freshly squeezed grape juice. So it tastes like wine. And it's, goyish wine, usher wine. B'invi, it landed on some grapes. Now, which formula? Is it considered the same thing? Of course not. Wine is wine, grapes are grapes. Tastes differently. It has a different name, different entity. Divrei HaKoil all agree in this case, it's about the flavor. That determines status. Chamra chadata b'invi. So in the previous case, if it's less than a 60th, you're safe. What if it's chamra chadata, wine, but it's freshly squeezed grape juice, which pretty much tastes, although it has a different name, it's not grapes, it's wine, but it tastes like grapes. B'invi, if it landed on grapes. Okay, which system do we employ? The flavor system, or even a drop is a problem. Abaye Amar b'mashu, even a drop forbids the grapes. V'Rava Amar b'neisin tam, it's about the flavor. Why? Abaye Amar b'mashu, why does he say mashu? Because basar tam azlina, we look at the flavor. That defines the essence of the elements. Idivi idechatamu, both elements have the same flavor. The fresh grape juice with the grapes. And therefore, v'havale min b'minah. So it's min b'minah, one type with the same type, right? Min b'minoi. Umin b'minoi b'mashu. In that case, even a drop forbids it. Because it's not nullified. In its opposition, there's no opposition. They're all on the same team. V'rav Amr b'neisin tam. Rav says no. Even in this case, if it's less than a 60th, you're safe. Why? Basar shmaz linan. Instead of looking at the flavor, we look at the essence. What defines the essence? The label, the way what it's called, whatever name it has. Vaish malachud. This one has its own name. This is wine. Vaish malachud. This is a different name. This is grapes, and therefore, they're considered opposing entities. It's one type in an opposing type. When there are varying types, it's about whether there is flavor. It's none. Let's go back to the Mishnah. So the wine which landed on the grapes, just rinse them off. If they were split, and the wine permeated the grapes, then the grapes are us. Now, what type of wine? Proper wine or grape juice? Because we figured at this point, we're speaking even about fresh wine, grape juice, that landed on those grapes. So, same flavor, but different types of things, right? We're assuming that when the Mishnah says the grapes become usher, it's it depends whether there's a flavor transfer to the whether the wine flavor is discernible in the grapes, because you see later in the Mishnah clearly makes reference to the idea of nice and tam. Okay, now so that's a kasha on Abaye, who says that when things have equal taste, same flavor, then it's min b'minoi, and even a mashu creates a problem. Here we see otherwise. Loi b'mashu. No, you're right. The Mishnah meant even a drop of that wine forbids the grapes. Why? Because they have the same flavor, and we follow the flavor, even a mashu. Hamiltoni Seifa, but take a look at the next part of the Mishnah, which clearly speaks about Noisein Tam, which is the 60th formula. Zaklal. So this is the rule pertaining to mixes. Kol Shaban Asr b'Nisin Tam Asr. So if one can discern the forbidden element within the permissible element, it's Asr. Otherwise, there's no Noisein Tam, it's Mutter. Apparently we're speaking about the taste, the flavor, the 60th formula. And that's a kasha on Abaye. When it's min b'minoi, we apply mashu, not 60th. Abaye will respond, nasnissen. Sure, our Mishnah is speaking instead of fresh grape juice landing on the grapes. No, it was proper wine, old wine, fermented wine, landing on those grapes. Different flavors, different tastes. It's min b'she'enim. Certainly, the 60th system applies. Okay, now, what about challah de chamra v'challah de shichra? A different mix between challah is vinegar, wine vinegar, challah de chamra, v'challah de shichra, and vinegar made from beer. Right? So, same label, the same concept. Vinegar, but different flavors. Or you have a mix-up between v'chamira de chiti, v'chamira de sari. Chamira is sourdough, used to inflate the dough, right? Like we say on b'dikas cham, right? Called chamira v'chamira. So you have sourdough made of different materials. V'chamira de chiti made of wheat, v'chamira de sari made of barley flour. Now, the two vinegars, one is asr, one is mutter. The two sourdoughs, one is asr, one is mutter. And they got mixed up. So, this is vinegar, this is vinegar. In terms of labels, in terms of names, they're both called the same. Same thing, vinegar and vinegar. But in terms of flavor, different flavors. So what's the formula? Abaye Omar, b'neisin tam. You have to discern the flavor aspect, because flavor is what determines the essence and defines the entity. it's a different flavor, a different entity. It's min b'she'enim mina. You got to look at the 60th aspect. Rava says in both these mixes, b'mashu, even a drop is reckoned with. Why? Abaye Omar b'neisin tam. Abaye says it's about the flavor, because we always view the taste, the flavor, as defining the essence. This vinegar has its own flavor. The other one has its own distinct flavor. And therefore, it's a mix between two different entities that clash, that nullify each other, unless there's a significant amount of the forbidden material, a 60th or more. And what happens if it's tam? We look at the flavor. Rava says even a drop is reckoned with because basar shma is lina. We ignore the flavor. We look at the label, what it's called. Vaychala mikri. This is vinegar. This is called vinegar. Vaychamira mikri. In case of the mixes between the sourdoughs, this is sourdough. This is sourdough, and therefore, it's one and the same thing. How do I know that in fact the Barsha Tam has linan? We always focus on the way the thing tastes. This now we have a Mishnah regarding Erla. So fruit tree during the first 3 years is forbidden. Let's say you have these seasonings, peppercorn growing off this tree. Tavlin, right? So different types of seasonings. Beis v'gimel shemes v'heimin echad. So they're pretty much the same species, but different variations. Black pepper, white pepper, right? Oymin gimel, or different types of seasonings. 3 different types of species. Now, there isn't enough of each one to affect, the soup. But 3 different types landed in the soup. Asurun u'mitztarfen. They are asur and they forbid the soup as well because they are mitztaref with each other. They join hands. They team up against the soup. So since these forbidden materials together will impart a flavor in the soup, will season the soup, we ignore the fact that there are 3 different types here. Each one independently can't do the job. No. They team up, they join together, combine to make the soup asr. Explains Chizkiah, how can we do that? How can we join together 3 different types? We're speaking about various seasonings which have a sweetening effect on the food. Since they're suitable for sweetening the soup, basically they all have different, variations of sweetness to them. So basically, it's all one and the same flavor, more or less. That allows them to combine, to join together to affect the soup. Now that's good if we look at flavor. If we define and determine an essence by its flavor, that works well. If we look at the flavor of things, so yeah, you have a right to say it's all the same flavor, and they join together and forbid the soup. But if we look at name and labels, they're separate entities. This one is called white pepper. This one is black pepper. How could you combine them? Apparently, tam is what carries the day, says Abai. And Rava, who disagrees, he'll explain the Mishnah a bit differently. Hamani Rabbi Yehi. The Mishnah can be explained in accordance with the Shita of Rabbi Meir, who says that all forbidden materials can join together irrespective of flavor, taste, essence, or label. Lasanya, Rabbi Da'im from Rabbi Meir, quotes Rabbi Meir, how do we know that I can combine all forbidden materials in the Torah? If one eats a combined shiur, a combined, required amount of kazais, a little bit of a dead animal, a little bit of a treif animal, even if there isn't enough from each one to make him liable. But if he joins them together, the fact is, they have something in common. They're all forbidden material. Shemitz tarfan zemzeh, so if he eats a kazais, this combined kazais, consisting of a little of this type of issur, that type of issur, he's chayiv malchus, shenamar, because we have a pasuk which sort of co-joins it all together. Don't eat anything which is abominable. Hashem says anything that I have considered despicable, inedible, forbidden, is covered by this new law of do not eat. Notwithstanding that each one has its own separate issur. Don't eat nevela, don't eat treifa, but if he doesn't have enough of each one to trigger that respective liability. A little bit of this, a little of that. At the end of the day, he has a kazayis of forbidden materials and he eats it, he gets malchus. Likewise here. You have enough seasoning to impart flavor, to make this soup asur. It's fine because we can ignore it. There are separate labels, according to Rav Meir. You have the required amount of isur material, it's asur. What if you have chala l'goy chamra? You have some forbidden vinegar, wine vinegar, that landed into your wine. Different tastes, different flavors, different names. In this case, all agree. Abaye and Rava agree. It's the nice and tam formula that applies. It's about flavor, it's about taste. Because these are separate entities. What about chamra l'gechala? Oh, interesting story. We have wine, forbidden wine, that fell into your vinegar. Now, in this case, again, they're separate entities, but as we're going to see in a minute, Rashi explains that the wine, interestingly, gets affected, gets spoiled to a certain degree as soon as it enters the airspace of that vinegar. The acidic effect is so profound that wine gets altered instantly, at least in terms of its aroma, in terms of its smell, which affects its taste as well. Right? You all know that smell has a very impactful effect on how we perceive taste. So this wine now poured into the vinegar, even before making contact and getting mixed into the vinegar, has already been affected by that vinegar and sort of got transformed to a certain extent and became somewhat vinegar too, in terms of its aroma. So in this case, Abaye Omar b'mashu. We can look at them as the same entity. Right? So even though it was wine to begin with, but now it sort of got transformed and converted a little bit into a vinegar element. And once it hits the vinegar, it's like vinegar into vinegar. Min b'minoi is mashu. Even a drop is a problem. Rava Amar b'nesan tam, no. Rava says, again, we apply the 60th system. Depends whether the forbidden material is discernible, taste-wise, in the recipient. Explains the Gemara why. Abaye Amar b'mashu. According to Abaye, even a drop. Why? Because reiche, chala, v'tama chamra chala. When this wine starts smelling like challah, like vinegar, even though v'tama chamra, it tastes like wine, the taste is still somewhat wine, challah, it can be defined as vinegar. So now, when it proceeds into the vinegar, it's like vinegar getting mixed into vinegar. It's all the same thing. And when we have a mix of two the same, even a drop creates a problem. Let's see Rashi on top. Rashi says, this wine, samachli ruvai. Right before the point of contact, it already smelled like vinegar. Although it still tastes like wine. What determines? The aroma. And then when it got mixed in, and even a mashu was a problem. Continues the Gemara in the second line. Rava Amar, no, I disagree, but I sent tam. Unless it gives off a flavor, unless you feel it in the recipient, it's not a problem, because reiche chala, when one has an aroma of vinegar, v'tam chamra, but still tastes like wine, chamra, it's defined as wine, so it's wine into vinegar, different types, different species. Two different things. Gotta have a 60th, nice and tam. Says the Gemara, Hi Bas, Israel. Bas is this little hole. They would smell. They would drill a hole in the barrel and give a good smell, a good sniff, to test the wine within it, to determine its freshness, its status, its aroma, right? So a bas is this like hole, this access hole, tia, intended for sniffing, for smelling. So if an Ovid Gechavim, a guy, was hired, to be the wine connoisseur in a kosher wine factory, but the Israel, he's doing it to Jewish barrels, to kosher wine. Shopper tell me it's okay. He's not touching the wine. He's not interacting with the wine. He's just taking a sniff through that hole. Not a problem. What about a Yisrael? If a Yid would choose to do this with geisha wine. Is he allowed to or not? On the one hand, you can say, oh, he's not drinking the geisha wine. Right? So what's the problem? On the other end, he's taking a good sniff. So the question is smelling, considered like ingesting. The aroma molecules which come and interact with the person and get sort of ingested within the person. Is that considered, tangible? Is that an element of the yayin esach? Or shall we say, well, smell is not tangible, it's not, significant enough. It's not part of the actual wine. We have a machlekes. Once again, between Abaye and Rava. Abaye Amar Asur, you cannot smell non-kosher wine in this manner. Rava Amar Mutar, it's okay. Abaye Amar Asur, why? Reicha milsa. You have to reckon with aroma. Aroma is essential. It's tangible. Rav Amar Mutar, no, he says it's okay. Reicha lav milsa. He's just a smell. It's not actual wine. Amar Rava Munamin. How do I know that in fact the reicha, that smell, v'loy klumu, doesn't have to be reckoned with? It's not we have a Mishnah. Tanur sheisikoy bekamin. Kamin is like a seasoning, a cumin, shel truma. So the kohen had some extra. The kohen had some extra kamin in his. He figured I'll use it as firewood, and he heated up his tanur, his oven, in order to bake bread. Now the kamin is truma, so the question is, what happens to the bread, which absorbs some of that aroma from the truma material? Vafa bais hapas, and he baked a bread in that oven. Hapas muteres. The pas is perfectly permissible. Even a non-kohen could eat it. Why? Because there's no truma within the bread, it's just an aroma that it absorbs. Levish ein batam kamen, there's no kamen flavoring in the bread. El reicha kamen, it's just a smell off the firewood, off the, Apparently, reich is not an issue. That's Rava's right. Likewise, by yayin esach, you're free to smell the yayin esach. Abaye responds, no, you can't compare. Shani hasam, very different in that case. The mikla isuri, because the isur, in this case the cumin element, was destroyed. It was incinerated by the time the aroma rises into the bread. So since the aroma is not sourced in anything tangible, it's coming from thin air, you don't have to reckon with it, as opposed to actually approaching a barrel of yayin esach and smelling and ingesting that heavy aroma coming out of that actual wine. That's a problem. Amar Rav Mari, Tanoi, says Rav Mari, apparently this is actually a machlekes Tanoi, whether reach is essence or not. Haroi de paschama. So this fellow removes his freshly baked, warm loaf of bread out of his oven, and in the meantime, to cool off, he puts it on an open barrel of wine. And it happens to be shel truma. There's truma wine in there. Question is, what happens to the loaf of bread? Is it going to absorb enough, from the truma in terms of reich, in terms of to make the bread usher for a non-kohen to eat? So is the bread affected by the wine or not? Rameir Oyser, he says the bread is affected. You can't just eat it. Only a kohen can eat it because of the truma element absorbed within the bread. Rabbi the matir, according to Rabbi, it's perfectly fine. Rabbi Yasi says it depends what kind of bread. Matir b'shel chitin, the bread is made of wheat flour, it's not so absorbent, then it's okay. V'oisa b'shel so'irim, but if it's made of barley flour, that's a problem. Mesha so'irim sho'avas, because barley tends to be more thirsty, more absorbent, and it sort of sucks in the aroma of the truma wine. Here you go, straight out machlekes. My lab, apparently this is the machlekes. The point of discussion is, can we ignore reach, or does it have to be reckoned with? The Marasava Reicha Milsi, Rameir says, well, reich is a factor to reckon with. The aroma of that truma wine has now been absorbed in the loaf of bread, and only a kohen can eat it. Whereas the other shita, Rabbi says, no, you can ignore smell. Says the Gemara, l'Rav v'atet tanoi. So according to Rav, who held that reich is nothing, certainly it's going to be machlekes tanoim, because clearly Rameir does consider it. La'abai, however, according to Abai, who says reich is essential, shall we say that this question is subject to machlekes tanoim? Meaning, is there any way to reconcile this Mishnah and all its opinions with Abayi's shita that reich is milsa? Amalch Abayi says, yeah, sure. In my case, all would agree, perhaps, that one may not ingest yain nesach aroma. Regarding this Mishnah, loaf on the barrel, I'm speaking about a special circumstance, which can go either way. Lav mitmar lo. Haven't we learned an explanation on this Mishnah? Amar Rabba Rabbanan Rabbi Amar Rish Lakish. There are different scenarios, and it all depends. Bepas chama v'chaves psucha. So if in fact a serious amount of that aroma has entered the loaf, all would agree that's asur, in accordance with my view that reicha milsa. So in fact, bepas chama, freshly baked, warm bread, which tends to be more absorbent because of, of its heat loss, because of its moisture loss. When it gets hot, it loses moisture, so it tends to be more absorbent to sort of compensate for its lost moisture. V'chaves psucha, if it's sitting on an open, uncapped barrel, all agree. It certainly absorbs a serious amount of reyach. Divrei hakol asura. Certainly, the reyach entered the loaf of bread and it's asur, because reyach is asur. However, pas nenes v'chaves megufa. If the bread has already cooled off, it's no longer sucking in v'chaves megufa, and the barrel is covered, is lid is capped with a lid, sealed. In this case, all agree is no issue. Because you have two elements in favor. The bread is not really highly absorbent, and nor is the wine leaving the barrel. When we have the machlekes in the Mishnah between these tanoim, somewhere in the middle, el pas chama v'chaves meguf. You have one element this way, one element the other way. It's a pas chama, so the bread is highly absorbent, it's warm and absorbent. V'chaves megufa, but the barrel is sealed. Or pas tenenes v'chaves psucha. The bread is already cool, not really sucking, v'chaves psucha, but the barrel is open. So you have one factor going in either direction. Then we have a machlekes. Is the bread going to absorb or not? V'hadidinami, says Abaye, according to this, it's unrelated to my case, because in my story where he's drawing out of that barrel, it's also considered like kipas chama. It's a highly absorbent situation. It's like kipas chama v'chaves psucha dami. It's like the first case of the warm bread on the open barrel, which according to all shittas absorbs reyach and affects the bread. Likewise, it would be forbidden to smell yain nesach. Okay, so in a nutshell, we have two machlekes, Abaye v'Rava. When there's a mix-up, Abaye says we look at flavor. That determines, that defines the items. According to Rava, it's about shem, what they're called. And the Meir Shaila, machlekes, Abaye says reicha milsa, and Rava says reicha lav milsa. All the best to you, and atzlacha.